Hello, Facebook Live. Holly Toronto back here with another live video. It's actually been a few weeks since I've hopped on here, and that's for a couple of reasons. I was traveling. I was in Idaho for a wedding with my husband a couple of weeks ago, and last week was kind of, crazy catch-up busyness before the long holiday weekend. But now I am back and I am ready to start sharing again some really important messages that have been on my heart, and things that I've worked on in myself, things that I've supported my clients in, and that I hope support you. So if you're watching, I would love to know who's here. Feel free to comment or like this video, share anything that might come up for you as I'm talking. Tell me if you agree, you disagree, whatever it might be. Let's have a dialogue. Let's use this as an opportunity to get to know each other. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly Toronto. It's not Holly Rosser, as my Facebook would say. Facebook won't let me change my last name to Toronto because it's the name of a Canadian city. It really makes no sense. I don't understand. But anyways, I support women in sustainable weight loss that is healthy for the body, because many of the ways in which our society promotes weight loss is actually very unhealthy for the body. Can lead to a lot of issues with our metabolism and with just our bodies in general. So there is a way to lose weight and sustainably and safe, and that's the way that I support my clients. So there is a topic that I wanted to discuss with everyone today, and that is the idea of throwing out the rule book when it comes to food and inviting in unconditional permission to eat. And so what does this mean? So I've kind of always identified, oh, hi Odette, thank you so much. I'm channeling my inner Khaleesi with the braid, if anybody is a Game of Thrones fan, just all about the braids. But so I've always identified as, let's say I've not always identified, but an area of opportunity for growth for me has always been in sort of seeing the world as black and white and not in the gray area. And so over the past few years that I've been on this journey, I've invited in more of the gray area. There's a man screaming outside my window. I apologize if you can hear that. And so how does this relate to my relationship to food? So it's easy to kind of get into this place of there's black and white rules around food. And that comes from a couple of different places. One being the way that our society and our culture demonizes specific food groups. So in the 80s and 90s it was fat, and then in the late 90s, early 2000s it was carbohydrates, and right now it's sugar and it's meat. And so it's really easy to create these black and white rules just based on the messages that we're hearing from industries, right? And then also with this sort of idea of, and this is a topic for a video that I want to do all on its own, but this idea of healthism. So really creating rules around healthism and choosing only foods that are good for our bodies, as opposed to indulging a little bit and having some fun with our diet. And so that's kind of where the black and white comes in. And there was a time in my life when I was really black and white when it came to my relationship to food. And so what did that look like? It looked like spending about a year of my life not eating gluten, not eating dairy, not eating sugar, not drinking alcohol, no nightshades, I like to say no fun. And during that time I had this belief that if I followed that diet, I would be skinny and not have pimples. And if I didn't have follow that diet, I would be fat and have pimples. And that was sort of my black and white way of looking at my life and my diet. And that diet was really supposed to be very short term, but it ended up being a lot more long term. I followed it for almost a year. And during that time, I realized that I had cultivated a really unhealthy relationship to my body and food. And so what did that look like? That looked like first aligning my morality with food. I'm not, yes, Odette, exactly, orthorexia for sure. And so I discovered that I had this really unhealthy relationship to my body and food. And that first looked like aligning my morality with food. So is anybody ever related to the experience of saying, oh, I was so good today, or I was so bad today based on what we eat? Yeah, there's a way in which that's actually built into our narrative and to the way that we talk about ourselves. It's like, oh, I'm so good today, or oh, so bad today. The truth is that eating food, any specific food, does not make you good or bad. I also was experiencing a lot of social anxiety when it came to food. So being out with friends and sort of watching them eat, pizza or French fries or enjoy a cocktail and feeling very left out, feeling like I couldn't participate in those activities or enjoy those foods with them, even though I really desperately wanted to. But then at the same time, kind of having this faux sense of righteousness, like, oh, I can be so good and I can follow through on this diet while no one else can. So that's kind of like what kept me going with it. But ultimately, like, what I really wanted was the pizza. It also caused me to be really overly critical of my appearance. So finding myself really studying my appearance in the mirror and like looking at my zits and my pimples and like, looking at my body and seeing if I was like bloated or how my cellulite looked, like whatever it was. But it really caused me to look at my body with a very critical eye when I had these very black and white rules around food and thinking like, oh, I had like a piece of chocolate yesterday, that's probably why, I'm a little bit bloated, and just kind of like beating myself up internally over it. It led to a lot more stress and digestive issues, and then ultimately this obsession around the foods that I had been restricting for so long. So when we do restrict certain foods for the sake of weight loss or dieting, whatever it might be, it oftentimes leads to even more intense feelings or cravings around those foods. And that's what I was experiencing on a daily basis. Until I discovered the life-changing process of intuitive eating. And anybody who's watched my Facebook Lives before, that I talk about this all the time. Intuitive eating quite literally changed my life and quite literally changed my relationship to food. And this is a book, I always have it sitting on my desk. But through this process, I learned how to live in the gray when it comes to my relationship to food and kind of throw out the rule book in a way. And living in the gray, I know gray can seem like a boring color, but as corny as it sounds, when you live in the gray, you're actually opening yourself up to so many possibilities when it comes to your relationship to your body and food and how you can maintain your health and feel really good in your body. And so that's kind of what I wanted to invite you into today. And this process of living in the gray can really allow you to intuitively choose the foods that feel really good for your body, while at the same time not feeling like you have to completely restrict something, especially if you don't have to. Of course, there are people who experience really adverse reactions to gluten or dairy or sugar. Absolutely, totally understand. But for me, I didn't. I did not have gluten intolerance. I eat gluten today and my skin is clearer than it's ever been and my stomach feels great. I eat dairy today, my skin is still clear of sugar, all of those kinds of things. And so there was a way in which, when I threw out this rule book, I was able to kind of cultivate this relationship to food that allowed me to intuitively choose the foods that felt really good for my body, while also allowing the flexibility to have fun with my diet and drink wine when I wanted to, because I really love wine, and to have chocolate if I wanted it, and have some pasta every now and then, without the need to overindulge. And I was able to stop identifying my morality with food and stop beating myself up every time I quote unquote indulged in something, and just was able to have fun and just clear up all of this mental brain space that had gone to like following these specific rules all the time. And so you might be thinking, I think, a lot of people when they're introduced to the intuitive eating process, one of the first steps in the intuitive eating process is to give yourself unconditional permission to eat. And so that literally means like eating whatever you want, whenever you want it. And that can be really confusing to people. And a lot of people think, well, if I do that, then I'm going to completely overindulge and I'm going to eat way too much food and then I'm going to get fat. And at first, when you do throw away the rule book, you might have that experience of like, oh, I can eat anything I want, and you might overindulge. But ultimately, your body knows how to balance itself out, and when you start to tune in and listen to the messages that your body is telling you, you don't want to eat hot fudge sundaes every day. You don't want to overindulge in alcohol. You want to give your body nourishing foods while still enjoying, quote unquote, what the intuitive eating process calls play foods, foods that are on your play menu, if you will. And so that's what I want to invite you guys into today, is exploring where you can throw out the rules and begin to cultivate this healthy relationship to your body and food, one that's flexible, one that's intuitive, one that's fun, and see how that changes you, changes your perception of yourself, see how that changes your perception of your body, see how that changes your body in general, and just be open to the transformation that can come through this process. I love talking about this topic so much, and I understand that it can be really confusing to people in the beginning. So I always recommend, please buy this book, Intuitive Eating. I don't know if it's backwards in this camera or not, but Intuitive Eating completely changed my life. But if this is something that feels confusing to you, if this is something that you're like, I don't get it, and if I did throw away the rules, then I would totally overindulge, then I would be happy to talk to you about it. I'm still offering a few introductory sessions and discovery sessions just to allow people the space to go deeper into their own relationship to their body and food. So if that's something that you feel like would be of service to you, then feel free to schedule a time with me. There's a link in the description of this video. And if you can't find a time that works for you, let me know. We can work together to find something. These conversations are for anyone and everyone. They're completely no obligation, completely supposed to be exploratory and fun. So if you're feeling any sort of interest at all in exploring this for yourself, then I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. I hope this, oh, Emily, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. You're so pretty. I hope that this video was inspiring to you. I hope it was of service to you. And yeah, I'll be back on in a few days with another video about intuitive eating and cultivating a healthy relationship to your body and food. Oh, Sarah, love you too, girl. So good to see everyone. As always, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.